They say the universe is a riddle wrapped in silence, and only the chosen few ever hear the whisper behind the veil. If you're watching this, then maybe, just maybe, you've already felt that whisper. Not the loud voice that screams with ego and noise, but the subtle pull like gravity coming from within your soul. Only 0.001% of people ever cross into what I call the Omega level, a realm not of power, but of presence. A level where the ego has disintegrated, where time fractures, and you begin to see the divine code hidden in ordinary moments. But if you're expecting this to be fantasy, you're not ready. This is not for the curious. This is for the called. When I first began to sense the Omega frequency, I didn't even know what I was looking for. I was chasing success, validation, and perfection. But none of that ever filled the silence between my thoughts. That silence grew louder over time until it became unbearable, until it broke me, and in that breaking something ancient awoke. Have you ever stood in front of a mirror and not recognized the eyes staring back? That's the first sign. The shattering of identity. The moment you realize the person you've been is only a mask stitched together by trauma, culture, and fear. You begin to peel it off, layer by layer, and what you find underneath is terrifyingly infinite. But here's the paradox. To reach Omega level, you must be willing to lose everything that makes you you. Most people will never do that. They will cling to comfort, to name, to habits, to pain. But the chosen ones, we walk into the fire of awakening knowing that nothing will remain. You might wonder, why would anyone do that? Why would anyone choose annihilation? Because deep down there's something more unbearable than change, remaining asleep in a life that feels like a lie. Omega level isn't a destination. It's a collapse, a surrender, a death and a rebirth. And if you felt even a sliver of this, you're already walking the path. One of the most misunderstood signs of approaching Omega level is isolation. Not the kind where you're physically alone, but the spiritual solitude where no one seems to understand you anymore. You speak, and people hear words, but not the frequency behind them. You feel like you're living behind a glass wall. You begin to lose interest in things that once thrilled you. The parties, the gossip, the chase, they start to feel like echoes from someone else's life. This is not depression. This is the sacred cocoon. The universe is pulling you inward, away from the noise, so you can hear the original sound of your soul. Don't resist it. Let it take you. Another sign is a sudden surge of synchronicities. Numbers, dreams, encounters, all aligning in ways that logic cannot explain. It's as though the universe is winking at you saying, "You're getting closer." But these signs are not the goal. They are just the breadcrumbs. The real challenge is not in seeing them, but in trusting them. Can you trust the path when it demands that you leap without a net? Can you walk toward the unknown, not knowing if it will catch you? Here's a question you must ask yourself. What would you do if you knew the universe was conspiring in your favor? Would you still hesitate? Would you still doubt? Omega level is not about escaping life. It's about penetrating it so deeply that you touch the eternal in the temporary. You begin to see through people, not in judgment but in compassion. Their anger becomes a cry for love. Their ego a shield for pain. You become a mirror, a lighthouse, a paradox. You are in the world but not of it. You participate but you don't cling. You love but you do not possess. You walk through chaos with a stillness that disturbs it, and people will sense it. They will either be drawn to you or they will reject you violently. Both are signs that you're radiating a frequency they can't yet understand. At Omega level, truth becomes your only compass. Not the truth that's taught, but the truth that's felt. You begin to prioritize alignment over approval. You say no without guilt. You leave spaces that shrink you. You choose discomfort over dishonesty. And strangely, the more you lose, the more you gain. Friends fall away. Beliefs crumble. Desires dissolve. And in their place, you find something terrifyingly beautiful. Peace. Not the peace of comfort, but the peace of clarity. You stop searching for the light because you realize you were the light all along. And here's the final sign for this part. You stop asking, what do I want from life? And start asking, what does life want from me? Your mission becomes less about personal success and more about service. You realize that your gifts were never meant to glorify you, but to awaken others. Your pain was never punishment, it was preparation. Your story was never random, it was ritual. At Omega level, every breath becomes a prayer, every step a pilgrimage. You don't need to escape the matrix. You simply stop feeding it. You become the glitch, the proof that something greater is possible. So I ask you now, have you felt the inner collapse? Have you begun to see through the veil? Do you feel like you're being prepared for something you cannot name? If yes, then keep watching. Because in the next part, I will take you deeper, not into knowledge, but into remembrance. Into the forgotten codes you've carried in your DNA since before you were born. Into the 7 signs that you are not just awakening, but being initiated. The soul's secret map. 7 signs you were chosen to reach Omega level. There is no accident in you being here. If you are listening, it means something ancient has stirred within you. Long before you were born, there was a blueprint, a spiritual DNA encoded with missions, lessons, and memories you would one day remember. The signs that you are approaching Omega level are not outward achievements, they are inward activations. They are not given to you by society, but by the universe itself. And while millions may speak of enlightenment, only 0.001% are truly walking the path. The rest are watching from the edge, afraid to dissolve. The soul does not force itself. It waits. But for the chosen ones, the waiting ends. These are the 7 signs that your soul has begun the Omega initiation, and each one is a chapter in your remembering. First sign, the collapse of the false self. This is the moment your world begins to crumble, not because you are cursed, but because the universe is rescuing you from illusion. You may lose relationships, jobs, dreams, health, or even your identity. But what's really happening is the dismantling of everything that was never truly you. When this happens, it can feel like death, and in a way it is. The death of the mask, the death of the puppet. You find yourself asking, who am I if I'm not this role? What remains when everything is stripped away? This is not punishment. This is sacred surgery. The soul is removing the noise so that you can finally hear your own frequency. If you are in this stage, breathe. You are being reborn. Second sign, the inner earthquake. This is the phase where your emotions become tidal. Old wounds erupt. You cry without knowing why. You feel anger at things that never used to bother you. Joy becomes deeper, more sacred. Fear becomes sharper, more irrational. This is not emotional instability, it is emotional purification. The energies you've buried for years are now coming to the surface to be released. Your soul is cleaning house. You cannot carry shadow into Omega level. It must be seen, felt, and transmuted. And here's the truth, you don't have to heal everything. You just have to stop running. Sit with it. Feel it. Let the pain teach you what it came to show. That pain is the portal. Third sign, the sacred discontent. You begin to feel restless, even in the midst of comfort. The life you once settled for now feels too small. The conversations feel shallow. The routines feel robotic. You might still be doing everything right, and yet feel completely wrong inside. This is the soul knocking, not gently but with urgency. It's saying you were not born to fit in. You were born to awaken. This discontent is the soul's compass. It doesn't mean your life is broken. It means your deeper life is beginning, and you will not be able to numb it. Not with success, not with pleasure, not with distraction. The only cure is truth. Have you felt this? That quiet ache that says there's more? That's your soul preparing you for the leap. Fourth sign, time distortion. When you're nearing Omega level, your relationship with time begins to shift. You might feel like time is speeding up or slowing down. Moments stretch, hours disappear. You look at the clock and feel like reality is bending. This isn't madness, it's awakening. Time is a construct of the ego. The deeper you go within, the more you step into the eternal now. You begin to operate from flow, not force. You notice synchronicities more often. You coincidentally meet people who say the exact thing you needed to hear. You think of someone and they message you. This is not coincidence. This is alignment. You are syncing with the field. You are remembering that life is not linear. It's a spiral, and you are spiraling upward. Fifth sign, radical honesty. At this stage, you can no longer lie to yourself. You try to pretend, but it doesn't work. Your body rebels. Your spirit aches. You begin to speak truth even when your voice shakes. You walk away from what is misaligned even when it terrifies you. You stop betraying yourself to please others, and people will notice. They may call you selfish, distant, rebellious. But deep down, you know you're not becoming someone new. You're returning to who you've always been. Honesty becomes your weapon and your shield. You no longer tolerate what dims your light. You no longer entertain anything that costs your peace. This is the soul reclaiming its sovereignty. And once you taste this kind of truth, you can never go back. Sixth sign, deep, unshakable peace amid chaos. One of the most paradoxical signs of reaching Omega level is the ability to feel peace in the center of storms. You may still face challenges, illness, loss, betrayal, but your inner world remains still. You stop reacting. You start responding. You realize that suffering is not in the event, but in the resistance. And you stop resisting reality. You embrace it like a wave you've learned to surf. This peace is not passivity, it's power. The power of presence. The power of knowing that nothing outside you can touch what's eternal within you. Have you ever felt this? That moment where even in pain there's a strange stillness? That's the Omega signal. You are no longer trying to control life. You are flowing with it. Fourth sign, time distortion. When you're nearing Omega level, your relationship with time begins to shift. You might feel like time is speeding up or slowing down. Moments stretch, hours disappear. You look at the clock and feel like reality is bending. This isn't madness, it's awakening. Time is a construct of the ego. The deeper you go within, the more you step into the eternal now. You begin to operate from flow, not force. You notice synchronicities more often. You coincidentally meet people who say the exact thing you needed to hear. You think of someone and they message you. This is not coincidence. This is alignment. You are syncing with the field. You are remembering that life is not linear. It's a spiral, and you are spiraling upward. Seventh sign, the call to serve. At the final stage of the Omega initiation, your life stops being about you. Your pain becomes your offering. Your gifts become your medicine for the world. You no longer chase impact, you embody it. You feel called to create, to teach, to heal, to guide. Not for attention, but because your soul can no longer not do it. You realize that every moment was preparation. Every heartbreak was initiation. Every failure was a forging. And now, you are the vessel, the message. You carry a light that cannot be taught, only remembered. and the world will feel it. Some will be drawn to it, others will fear it, but none will ignore it. Because when you reach Omega level, you don't need to speak to be heard. You are the frequency. Now I ask you, which of these signs have you experienced? Which ones are you resisting? And if you knew without a doubt that you were chosen, would you still hesitate to walk through the fire? Omega level is not a reward. It is a responsibility. And the path forward requires a sacred vow, to live not from fear but from soul. In the next part, we go beyond signs. We dive into the activation codes, the practical steps, ancient practices, and soul disciplines that awaken the Omega frequency fully. This is when the journey becomes real. This is where the divine meets discipline. The Omega protocols, how to activate the 0.001% within you. The truth is, most people awaken just enough to feel the ache, but not enough to transform. They sense the fire calling them to rise, but they shrink beneath its heat, mistaking it for punishment rather than purification. Reaching Omega level is not passive. It's not just about recognizing signs, it's about embodying the frequency. There are ancient protocols, hidden in our breath, our discipline, our stillness, that unlock the codes of the awakened soul. This is not magic, this is mastery, and everything you need is already within you. The question is, are you willing to become the version of yourself that your soul already knows? Because if you are, then the Omega path is not only possible, it is inevitable. The first protocol is radical stillness. In a world that worships movement, the chosen ones learn to revere silence. Every day you must create a space where you do nothing but listen, not to music, not to content, but to the subtle language of your being. Meditation is not about emptying the mind, it's about becoming aware of what fills it. You will begin to notice the voices that are not yours, the inherited beliefs, the implanted fears, the societal noise. And in this noticing, they lose power. Stillness is not absence, it is presence in its purest form. If you can sit in absolute silence for even 20 minutes a day, you will begin to hear your soul whispering instructions, coded guidance from the deeper realms. The second protocol is energetic hygiene. Just as the body collects dirt, your energy field collects residue, thoughts, emotions, projections from others. The Omega initiate learns to cleanse their aura like they would their skin. Daily breathwork, salt baths, grounding walks barefoot on earth, or even visualizing light washing through your body, these are not spiritual luxuries, they are spiritual necessities. You cannot channel divine truth through a clogged vessel. Release what isn't yours. Let go of the energy that no longer serves. And ask yourself often, is this feeling mine? Or am I carrying someone else's burden? The clearer your field, the brighter your frequency. The third protocol is sacred discipline. Discipline is the bridge between your current self and your Omega self. Not the discipline of punishment, but of devotion. Wake up early not because you have to, but because you get to meet your soul before the world wakes up. Fast not to punish the body, but to hear the voice beyond appetite. Move your body not to look a certain way, but to become a clear channel for energy to flow. Treat every mundane act as a ritual. Make your life a ceremony. The chosen ones are not always the most gifted, they are the most devoted. They show up even when no one is watching, especially then. The fourth protocol is shadow integration. You cannot reach Omega level by bypassing your darkness. The parts of you that you hide, judge, suppress, these are not barriers, they are keys. Bring them to the light. Sit with your shame. Study your jealousy. Listen to your rage. These are not signs of your failure, they are fragments of your power waiting to be reclaimed. The more you integrate your shadow, the less it controls you. You become whole. And wholeness is the gateway to mastery. Ask yourself, what am I still hiding from myself? What part of me have I exiled? Bring it home. Love it into alchemy. The fifth protocol is soul alignment over ego ambition. Every day you will be tempted to chase success, validation, control. But the Omega path requires that you listen to what your soul is truly asking. Sometimes that means walking away from opportunities that flatter your ego but shrink your spirit. Sometimes it means doing the hard thing, the thing that makes no sense to your logic but is undeniable to your intuition. To live from soul means to obey a rhythm that others cannot hear. It means trusting the invisible, and it often means being misunderstood. But alignment is the new currency. When you are aligned, doors open by vibration, not force. The sixth protocol is conscious community. The Omega frequency cannot be sustained in isolation forever. You must find or create a field of resonance. People who see you not just for who you are, but for who you are becoming. People who challenge your illusions and mirror your essence. This is not about popularity, it's about integrity. One aligned companion is worth more than 1,000 surface-level friends. Choose your circle like your life depends on it, because energetically it does. And if you don't have your tribe yet, don't panic. Become the frequency and the tribe will find you. Energy always attracts its match. The final protocol is surrender to mystery. No matter how awakened you become, you will never fully understand the divine intelligence guiding this path. And that's the point. Omega level is not about control, it's about co-creation. Trust that what is unfolding is bigger than your mind can grasp. Trust that the delays, the detours, the heartbreaks, they are all part of your sacred curriculum. Let go of needing to know how or when. Focus instead on being the clearest, most radiant, most aligned version of yourself right now. Because the future isn't written, it's magnetized by your present frequency. Surrender is not weakness. It is the final act of mastery. So now we stand at the edge. You've heard the signs. You've felt the calling. You've been given the protocols. But none of this matters unless you act, unless you be, unless you remember. You are not here to be like the rest. You are not here to live a life of quiet desperation. You are here to awaken the divine code within you, to become a living transmission of what is possible when a human fully surrenders to their soul. And in doing so, you become the anomaly in the matrix, the one who walks with fire in their eyes and peace in their chest, the one who speaks without words and changes rooms without effort, the one who reminds the world of what we've all forgotten. We are not here to survive, we are here to awaken. And so I leave you with this question, the deepest one yet. If you knew that the future of humanity depended on your full awakening, would you still play small? Because the truth is, it does, and you were chosen, not randomly, not by accident, but because you carry something this world desperately needs. You are the 0.001%, and the time to rise is now. The final gate, becoming the living frequency of Omega. Now that you've walked through the signs, the protocols, and the calling, the question that remains is not what or how, but who am I becoming? Because reaching Omega level is not an achievement, it is a becoming. The moment the soul integrates the signs and activates the protocols, something irreversible happens. You are no longer the seeker. You become the signal. You become the transmission, a walking embodiment of divine remembrance. And from this point forward, your life is no longer about collecting knowledge, it's about radiating truth. This is the final gate, and though it cannot be forced open, it can be surrendered to. The gate recognizes frequency, not effort. You do not push your way through. You dissolve everything that cannot pass. And what remains is you, unmasked, unbound, and eternal. The first transformation that occurs in this final stage is the collapse of separation. You no longer see yourself as separate from others, from nature, from source. You begin to feel the interconnected web behind all things. You might look into a stranger's eyes and suddenly see lifetimes of stories. You might weep at the sound of wind moving through trees. You become porous, open to energy, vibration, and meaning in ways the logical mind cannot explain. This can be overwhelming at first. You may feel too sensitive, too open, too raw. But this is not weakness, it is expansion. Your soul is no longer confined to the shell of individuality. It is merging with the all. And in that merger, the ego dissolves like salt in sacred water. Next, you begin to experience spontaneous knowing. You stop relying solely on books, teachings, or external gurus. Insight begins to arise from within you, fully formed, undeniable, and often shocking in its clarity. This is not imagination. This is the awakening of your inner oracle. The same intelligence that beats your heart and orchestrates galaxies is now speaking through you. You may begin to write, speak, or create things that feel beyond your own mind. This is flow consciousness. This is divine intelligence expressing through a surrendered vessel. The less you try to control it, the more it flows. And what you once sought outside now erupts from your center like light breaking from a cracked shell. With this knowing comes energetic authority. You no longer need to prove who you are. Your presence speaks before you do. People feel it. Some are drawn to you instantly, feeling safe or inspired without knowing why. Others may feel discomfort, even resistance, because your frequency threatens the part of them still clinging to illusion. Don't take it personally. You're no longer in the realm of personality. You are becoming archetype, mirror, awaken. Your very existence disrupts unconsciousness, and this is the sacred burden of the Omega, to be a living reminder of what others have forgotten. To hold a higher standard, not from judgment, but from love, from remembrance. At this stage, you also begin to live in alignment with divine timing. You stop chasing. You start listening. You no longer hustle to force outcomes. You recognize that the universe is always on time, and you begin to trust its rhythm more than your mind's deadlines. Opportunities arrive when your frequency is ready to receive them, not when your ego demands them. You learn to move when moved, speak when spoken through, and act from resonance, not reaction. This level of trust creates a field of magic around you. Life begins to feel like a co-created dance between your will and the will of the divine. And the more you surrender, the more precise and miraculous it becomes. One of the most powerful changes that occurs in this final gate is the purification of desire. You no longer want things in the same way. You don't desire to have, you desire to express. Your goals are no longer about accumulation, but about transmission. You want to build things that carry frequency. You want to speak words that heal timelines. You want to create art that awakens cells. Your focus shifts from what can I get to what can I give that no one else can. And in that giving, paradoxically, you receive more than you ever imagined, because the universe always matches frequency. And when you radiate truth, abundance becomes inevitable. Not just material wealth, but spiritual overflow. Another key trait of the Omega embodiment is unshakable inner sovereignty. You no longer seek validation, approval, or permission to be who you are. You've walked through the fire, faced your shadows, and returned with the crown forged in initiation. You know who you are. You know what you carry. And no external opinion can shake that. This doesn't make you arrogant, it makes you unmovable. You become like the mountain, still, ancient, and grounded in essence. This sovereignty allows you to love without attachment, serve without expectation, and lead without ego. And this is what the world is starving for. Not more leaders who dominate, but beings who embody. And finally, and perhaps most sacredly, you begin to see the divine in everything. In pain, in pleasure, in loss, in love. You no longer categorize experiences as good or bad, they are all alchemical. Everything becomes medicine. Every person becomes a teacher. Every moment becomes an initiation. You live life as a sacred text unfolding in real time. And you begin to remember the oldest truth of all, that you are not separate from God. You are a fractal expression of the infinite. And your life, when fully lived, becomes a prayer that never ends. A breath that speaks in silence. A flame that ignites others simply by burning true. So now I ask you one final time, if your life was the only scripture someone ever read, would it awaken them? Because that is the Omega path. Not to preach, but to be. Not to teach from words, but from frequency. Not to chase divinity, but to remember you are it. And now you know the gate is open. The fire is waiting. And you